Si querés visualizar los datos de cada operación, monitorear la productividad y estar en otro lado al mismo tiempo, lo tenés a mano. Si preferís planificar tus operaciones integrando los datos en una sola plataforma y querés hacerlo desde cualquier lugar, lo tenés a mano. Si elegís tomar mejores decisiones y mejorar tu operación agrícola, monitoreando todo sin interrumpir tu descanso, también lo tenés a mano. John Deere Operation Center. Lo tenés a mano. Estás conectado.
Toma el control de tus aplicaciones con la línea de productos Ligier. Coadyuvantes, limpiadores y acondicionadores de agua que garantizan la mejor protección para tus cultivos. Coadyuvantes Ligier. Estamos en el pico de la innovación.
Somos APRESID Internacional. Llevamos la misión de APRESID a distintos rincones del mundo, promoviendo la producción sustentable de alimentos, fibras y energía. Estamos a la vanguardia de posibles soluciones para mitigar el cambio climático al promover un modelo de agricultura basado en el sistema de siembra directa que conserva y regenera. ¿Cómo lo hacemos? Llevando a cabo iniciativas lideradas por productores argentinos para impulsar la implementación del sistema de siembra directa y el intercambio de conocimientos a nivel global. Participando activamente en foros y eventos internacionales para posicionar a los productores argentinos, a la asociación y al país como referentes en la producción sustentable, potenciando así el impacto positivo de APRESID a nivel internacional. Para conocer más sobre las acciones de APRESID en el mundo, podés ingresar a nuestra página web y seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales.
Quest, no more than that. And a friend of mine
Ganó más acá.
told me, also
Y
professional, told me that in the
un
States,
profesional me dijo que en los
there was
Estados
a
Unidos
university
había una
was,
universidad
working on
que
field,
estaba
and they had
trabajando
a field day
en
in
la
a
labranza cero
city called
y
Milan,
ellos estaban en una
Italian
ciudad
one,
llamada
in Tennessee,
Milano,
that they have a
esto
field
estaba
day
en Tennessee,
just to
no en
show the
Italia,
farmers
y
all the
tenían
improvements
un
that
estudio
the
de campo para mostrarle a los
university
agricultores
had made
todos
during
los
the year. And it was a
adelantos
big
que habían
event.
logrado durante el año a nivel
It was
universitario. Era un
very
evento
famous
realmente
in
muy
the
famoso,
in the area,
muy
in the
importante
Dixie
en
area.
este
So, maybe
ámbito, en
some
este área.
tourism,
Entonces,
some
bueno,
seeking
lo
for
combiné
knowledge.
con
We went there,
turismo y
and we
en la
spent
búsqueda
10
de
days
conocimiento.
that I
Pasé
treasure a
10
lot
días
there.
que realmente
I also
atesoro
keep the
muchísimo
cap,
en mi corazón.
the
Y
Milan
también me he
Nautil.
guardado
For 27
la
years I keep
gorrita
this cap. So
durante
now for
27
me it's
años,
a
como ustedes
real
pueden ver.
honor to have
Entonces,
you
para
here.
mí es un honor que
And-
estén aquí presentes
And well,
en este
I think that
evento.
you plant
Y
the
bueno,
seed
creo que
because,
ustedes sembraron
as I
y
told you,
plantaron la semillita,
no-till was
porque
something
como
like
les
a farmer
dije,
to farmer here in
labranza
Argentina,
cero era
and
algo de boca a boca entre un
the
agricultor
work
y otro,
with the
no se conocía
universities
mucho,
was not
y
very
el
regular,
trabajo
it
con
was
las
something
universidades
new.
no era habitual,
And
era
I
algo
think
muy
that-
nuevo, muy novedoso,
that
y
visit
creo
was
que
something like
esta
the seed
visita a
for the
Tennessee fue
upcoming.
como
So,
la
thank you
semillita
for being
que
here,
inició
and
en la labranza
well,
cero acá, así que gracias
this
por estar aquí.
introduction is
Bienvenidos.
something personal,
Esta presentación
sorry.
es algo personal, un
But
comentario personal
I want to share with
que quería
the
compartir
audience
con ustedes y
your
con el público.
outstanding resume.
Todo,
Your
bueno,
Dr.
el
Joe
resumen
Swan here
realmente
is
tan
professor of the
maravilloso.
Department
El
of
doctor,
Biosystems
Joe Swan
Engineering and
es el
Soil
presidente
Science. Is Director of Environmental and Soil Science Graduate Studies and the lead
en los estudios
class of a
graduados,
cluster
y
higher initiative
realmente
of
es el
climate
líder de
smart
un grupo
agriculture
de
and forestry.
agricultura
She
inteligente.
has organized or chaired over
También ha
40
sido
international
presidente
transdisciplinary
de más de
workshops
14 talleres
and
de
benefiting
trabajo
more than 6,000 researchers and
multidisciplinarios, y
students.
ha participado en muchos trabajos de investigación con muchos estudiantes.
He have published in over 60 international journals.
En más de
He's
60 revistas
He's a reviewer of these journals.
Es editor y revisor de
lead
estas
projects
revistas internacionales y ha
to
liderado
develop global
proyectos
research
para
network
desarrollar
on food,
redes
energy,
de
water.
investigación global en alimentos,
Well, it's
energía,
a pleasure
agua.
to have him here.
Es un placer
And
que esté aquí con
Dr.
nosotros.
Zhuang, please,
Dr. Zhuang,
you are free to.
tiene la palabra.
Okay.
Thanks.
So,
Muchísimas gracias.
can you hear me clearly?
¿Me
Okay,
pueden
so-
oír bien?
If we ask, what are the
Nosotros
three
nos
most
preguntamos
important things in
cuáles
our life
son
today?
las
So we
tres
can
cosas
have a
más
very long
importantes
list,
en la vida.
like
Nosotros podemos
electrical
tener una lista
vehicle,
muy,
cell phone, airplane, everything.
larga,
But to
por
me, I think
ejemplo,
that food, energy, water
los
are
aviones,
the
pero para mí
three
creo que
very
tenemos
basic
tres,
and most important things,
elementos,
because without one of them,
básicos,
we cannot
que son los más
survive.
importantes
Even
que
for
nosotros necesitamos
several
para
days, we have
sobrevivir.
trouble. In the
Nosotros,
United
si no lo
States,
tenemos
the
por
National
días,
Science
vamos a tener
Foundation
problemas.
programs
En los
are
Estados
based
Unidos
on
nosotros
three
tenemos
things:
programas
food, water,
que
and
se
oxygen.
concentran
But
en
today we don't
alimentos,
need to worry
energía
about
y agua.
oxygen,
Este es el nexo.
but we worry about
Pero
energy.
nosotros
That's true.
no
So this is
podemos
why
sobrevivir
these
sin
food, energy,
oxígeno,
water
sin,
really are the
energía.
basic
Es por eso que
three
estos son
components
los componentes
for
básicos,
today's
los tres
world.
más
We have to worry
importantes
about
para el
these.
mundo actual.
Sometimes, while probably in
veces,
Rosario we don't have this
nosotros
problem,
en
but for
Rosario
in other
no tenemos este
regions
problema,
of the
pero
world,
en otras
many
regiones del
people
mundo
have
sí.
one
Podemos
of
ver
the three
que
problems, or all of the
hay
three problems.
uno de
So
los
this is why today I'm
estos tres
going to
elementos
talk
que
about
están
how
ausentes,
the
así
three
que voy a
systems
hablar acerca de cómo
interact
estos
together
tres
and to make
sistemas interactúan
our
entre
world
sí
better
y
or worse.
con el propósito
So
de
the
mejorar o
central
empeorar
topic
el
is
mundo.
net zero
Entonces,
transition.
voy a hablar
So,
acerca de la transición
Next slide. Okay, but
cero
what is
neta.
net zero? I believe
significa cero
many of
neto?
you know this
Yo creo
word,
que
net zero.
ustedes conocen
Net
esta
zero
palabra
is
neto cero. Se
a
trata
condition where
de una
greenhouse
condición
gas
en donde
emission
las
caused
emisiones
by
de gas
human
de efecto
activity
de invernadero
become
provocado por la
zero.
actividad de los seres
So our
humanos
goal is
se
by
vuelven cero.
2030 we need to
Nuestros
cut
objetivos
half
para
of greenhouse gas
2030
emission,
es
and by
reducir
2050
a la
we need to
mitad de las
cut our
emisiones de
gas
gas de efecto
emission
invernadero
to
y
zero.
alcanzar el
So
cero
all
de
of
las
the
emisiones de
countries
este gas en
based on
2050.
COP27
Entonces, nosotros
made last year,
el año pasado
those
tuvimos una reunión
signature
y
countries agreed to take substantial action in their own
adoptaron
country
una
to reduce
cierto
greenhouse
número de
gas
acciones en sus
emission.
países como
And
para reducir la
also,
emisión de
currently,
gas
for
de
example, in
efecto
the
invernadero.
United States,
Y
many
también
companies,
en
farmers,
los Estados Unidos,
they are
muchas
considering or
empresas
already
y
take actions to
agricultores
cut
han
of
adoptado
carbon
una
emissions.
postura para poder
So including
reducir la
nitrogen
emisión
emission and
de
also
carbono.
methane
Nosotros
gas.
aquí,
So all the types of greenhouse gases. But this
diferentes
goal is
tipos
not
de
easy to
gases de
achieve.
efecto
I don't know
pero
how
esto no es
serious
fácil de
Argentina
lograr.
government is
Yo no
with
sé
this net zero
cuán
goal, but in the
grave
United
es,
States, also
esto
in
en
China and
Argentina,
many
pero
other countries,
en
they are
Estados
serious
Unidos y en
about this
muchos
net zero
otros
goal.
países
And,
tenemos ciertos
so
temores con
then,
respecto a estas
the question
emisiones.
is,
Si queremos
as
lograr
many companies or organizations,
efectos ceros y hay
individual
muchas
people
empresas,
start to ask how we
individuos,
can
organizaciones
reduce
comienzan a
carbon
preguntarse
emission,
cómo
how we
podemos
can live a low
reducir la emisión de
carbon
carbono,
life.
cómo podemos
That's the question.
vivir una vida
So-
con bajo
this
carbono.
net
Entonces,
zero
este,
action can contribute
esta acción
to
de cero
climate
neta
neutral or
puede,
climate positive goals, make us to make our world or our life more resilient to climate change impact.
No tenga este impacto tan
So,
negativo con respecto
I want
al
to,
mundo.
we can talk about this topic for several days, but
Podríamos
today I just
hablar
briefly
días con respecto
cover
a
this
este tema,
net zero topic, so
con
three
este tema de
parts.
cero neto.
First, the system
En
challenges,
primer lugar, quiero
second,
hablar
system
acerca de los
solutions,
desafíos
and
del sistema,
last,
en
we
segundo
hope
lugar, la solución del sistema
science
y
to
en tercer
practice.
lugar, la ciencia
So,
como para
let's
poder
look at
practicar.
what is the
Entonces,
food,
vamos
energy,
a ver
water nexus.
cuál
So
es el
this is
nexo
a very
entre el
general
alimento, la energía y el
framework.
agua. Este es
if
un
we
trabajo
look at
libre,
all
general.
today's water,
Aquí podemos ver el
69% of
agua
fresh water is used
podemos
for
ver que el
agriculture,
69% del agua
25 to 45% for energy generation. So almost 99%
95% para generación de
fresh
energía.
water is
Entonces
used for
podemos ver que el 95% del
and
agua
also
dulce
for
se
energy
utiliza para la
generation.
agricultura y también para
Only
la generación
1%
de energía.
live for our human daily life.
Va a quedar
This is
para
the
uso
number.
o
And
consumo de los
also,
seres
how many,
humanos en la vida diaria.
what percentage of energy used for agriculture and for
Podemos ver que
water
hay un
extraction and
porcentaje
treatment?
de agua
It's more
que
than
se utiliza para el
70%.
tratamiento de agua.
The key issue is we don't know what is the contribution of agriculture to water resources and to our renewable energy.
Y
So I
para la
put
energía
a,
renovable. Entonces,
okay, I put a question mark here.
aquí
So but
pongo
there
un
is
signo de
a
pregunta.
great potential.
Existe un gran
Agriculture
potencial.
biomass might be used to produce
Por
bioenergy.
ejemplo,
And many agriculture wastewater
para
could
trabajar
be
las tierras y gran parte
treated or
de
collected and recycled back to
agua se
our
podría volver a
from water
reciclar
reservoirs such as
como
lakes,
para tener
groundwater,
reservorios de
or
agua
rivers.
y de estos
There are
utilizarlos
huge potential.
en,
But today
en la
this
agricultura.
conference
Hay un
is
potencial
focused
muy
on
grande,
agriculture.
pero
We,
ahora nosotros
as
estamos
agriculture
concentrados en la
expertise, we
agricultura,
need
de
to
esto
answer
se
this
trata el
question.
Congreso. Entonces tenemos
So
estas
from
preguntas sin
now we
responder.
already have many
Entonces,
good bioconversion technologies that can convert biomass, crop residues into bioethanol or bioproducts. So at our university in Tennessee, we have a number of projects that they can convert switchgrass biomass into many plate, carp, or even some nanofibers for vehicle tires, many things. So it's too early, but those technologies have been much well tested. They are very promising technology in the next 10 years.
Tecnología muy promisoria que va a surgir en los próximos 10 años.
So we need to, I guess here, you guys also have similar interest how we can convert agricultural biomass into valuable products in our life. So how much biomass, if we can replace plastics using biomass or nanofibers, that would be great. Yeah. I believe technology can help us to achieve this goal.
Nos puede utilizar para lograr estos objetivos.
So let's look at FEW shortage in the world. This is not a new number.
Estas son cifras del 2017.
But there's no big change. Probably due to COVID-19 or some wars, these numbers might increase. So still about 1 billion people lack food, energy, and water in each category. So by 2050, if we want to control global temperature less than global temperature increase less than 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we need to reduce our human activities, such as how I think it's not possible to reduce food production or energy production, but the key point is how we can recycle food waste and animal waste for reuse. So also our population, as all you know, that in next 20 years, so 2 million new people will are coming to this earth. So who can feed these 2 billion people? That's a problem. Also, by in next 20 years, 2.5 billion people will live in urban. So almost 68% of people will live in cities. So cities are centers that consume food, energy, and water much more than rural people. So we need to realize also GDP, global GDP will be tripled. So these are the GDP associated products consumed water, consume natural resources. But they are generally a lot of waste. So how to recycle, use that? So these are really big great challenges. Population, urbanization, and also GDP. So because no country wants to give up GDP increase. Right? So, but how to handle these problems?
¿Cómo vamos a abordar todos estos problemas?
So meanwhile, also these numbers might not be accurate.
A lo mejor no son muy precisas, pero simplemente quiero mostrarles la tendencia.
Food price might change with
Porque
market from year to
precio
year.
de los alimentos cambian año tras año.
Price might increase by 90%.
And
by 2030, rice, wheat. So it looks like monthly we will lose at least 10% arable land, but the food price will increase more than 70%. All this while we lose our land, but we need more food, and the food price increase. Very likely we will make our current world not sustainable. But we need a sustainable society. This is, and so, in summary, by 2050, food demand will increase by 70%, and the energy demand increase by 80%, and the fresh water demand will increase by 55% due to population growth, GDP requirement, those kind of things. So let's look at our agriculture. So what is the agriculture problem we have now? So in general, so agricultural system contributes 34% of global greenhouse gas emission, directly contribution, also consumes 70% of global fresh water, and water wastewater infrastructure also emit 2% of greenhouse gas emission, greenhouse gases. So agriculture, as this morning Dr. Basso mentioned, agriculture is a problem, but we want to convert agricultural problems into agricultural solutions. Then we need to think about what we should do. So also this agriculture, so under climate change conditions, agriculture is becoming more and more vulnerable to climate threats due to drought or flooding problems. And we also facilitate degrade, also huge volumes of biomass produced from animal production, animal manure, such as poultry litters. So how we can reuse those poultry litters? So they contain nutrients, but the animal producer has no space to store them. So how we can solve this problem? So technologically, yes, there are many choices, but there are not many pilot demonstrations we can see. We still don't understand how to integrate things together to solve the problems. Okay, so I would like to make this China
usar este ejemplo de China para mostrarles cómo el agua se conecta. Si observan esto, muestra el ROW es el resto del mundo, ¿sí? Entonces, el agua inducida por el comercio y aquí se contiene, y el agua de la agricultura
different provinces in China. So similarly, between U.S., Argentina with India, probably the same flow. We produce wheat. We use a lot of water. So those wheat is exported to China or India. So that means we also export our water resources to those countries. So this virtual water food energy analysis has been well done in this research. There is no doubt. A lot of great modeling software already told us. So my question is how international trade could be used for water saving in the world. So think about a wet area and the dry area. How these two areas could be collaborate for the goal of net zero water. So net zero concept is invented from the angle of greenhouse gas emission. But now people start to use that for net zero energy, net zero water. So that means, for example, net zero energy, that means this building we don't rely on external energy. We just use our own solar panel on the roof of this building to generate the electricity we need. Then we call this building is net zero energy.
Esto es la energía cero.
So also, let's look at this. So if we look at compare different regions, continents in the world, so Asia consumes 75% of fresh water, and America only 15%. My question is how we can improve the world trade relationships among different continents, for example, food import or export. Then we can save the water. So this is. So then my question is how we world condition or world economy can reshape our food and energy trade in the world. So I think South America can play a key role. So South America can produce many biomass products or foods, and also shale gas energy, renewable energy could be exported to other countries. Then you can exchange some other products back. So this might be, so this is not a new perspective. Actually, many industries already address this kind of point, but I just re-emphasize this perspective here. And the next, so those are all challenges. So it looks like true, you already know, but what are the solutions we can design and apply? So I would say there are probably many different solutions. But I will just make several examples. For example, this is a very easy solution. Develop collaboration between different regions. Region 1, for example, Argentina. Region 2, United States. So this is the exchange. You know, if for example, in Tennessee, we have a lot of water. Our problem, agriculture problem in Tennessee is too much water. That's the problem. Too much water might be good for producing many foods. Then those foods soybean, cotton might be, so exported to Middle East. Then exchange energy back to Tennessee. So this is a very basic thinking people have now. But I think at different levels of skills, even between those areas or Rosario, you can use this. Because we did some modeling work. We think it's, if we change potato, rice, white soybean, especially we just use, so we just, here you don't have water. For example, in northeastern China, the rainfall is very low, 500 millimeters per year. But the farmers still grow rice. That's the problem. So our point is, how about we ask southern China to grow rice, but the northern China maybe grow some potato or some other main crops. But this is scientifically possible. But at policy level, at policy level, almost not possible. So government, even province level government cannot command farmers to grow this crop, but not that crop. That's the problem. So there are policy barriers.
Hay obstáculos que tienen que ver
con las also we need to be aware that so there are many emerging technologies as listed here. So AI technology, so real-time aerial imaging like drones or sensor technology, many biotechnologies, so automated equipment. So these new technologies are being taken and used by farmers. No. So, but we don't understand the consequence. If we use too many automated unmanned equipment in our field, so soil might be highly compacted. So reduces water infiltration, causing more flooding problems. So the technology looks great, but But people don't think about the consequence at system level. There we need systems solutions. So all of these are emerging technology, but there are trade-off problems. So first, these technology might allow farms to be more profitable or efficient. So they can, they don't need to hire many laborers. But the problem is, so if we make farmers lose job, so someday if the AI or automated equipment turns out not working well, so those farmers or their farmers' children, so they can have a job for survival. This will cause societal equity problems. This is really, today, as you can see, so small farms cannot afford, do not have ability to battle climate impact. But corporate farms or large farms has technology or financial resources to overcome climate problems. So this causes the economy between small and large farms become larger and larger. This will be a social problems. And also, those emerging technology will bring many new questions. So these questions, I will not raise this one by one, but for example here, solar and wind energy. You are familiar with solar and wind energy. But how they can be easily generated. But the problem is, what are the benefits to our farmers? Solar, a lot of clear economic benefits to energy companies, but what are the benefits, long-term benefits to our farmers? That's the problem. In the U.S., so a lot of solar panels installed on farms, but then farmers is becoming not crop farmers; they become energy farmers. But they are not familiar with that business. They don't know how to repair those panels if they have problem. That's a problem. A lot of associated problems. But follow. So, and also here, and okay, let's also. You probably heard about the vertical agriculture, urban agriculture, but currently, so based on my information, in the U.S., no any urban agriculture is successful. They all fail. They cannot earn money. They have big loan from bank, but it takes 5 or even 10 years to get a profit. So it sounds great. Urban space is used for vegetable production, but that LED light has a high cost. That's the problem. So then we need to really, it's very important for us to summarize our lessons and work with the stakeholders such as farmers to figure out to minimize any trade-offs or any traps. So also, I would like to blame our government. Sometimes policymakers respond to the emerging technology and the new scientific concepts very, very slow. They're very, very slow. So we tell them, but these sounds great, but yeah, let's think about it. But after 3 or 5 years, there's no corresponding policies follow. That's the problem. So these are just some examples. For example, government policymakers has passive adaptation to emerging technologies. Even in the U.S., so a lot of small or big companies manufacture robots or drones. But, so I don't know how they make money, but the problem is they just actually no farmers, very seldom farmers use that technology. But many companies still, make drones or robots. There's a big gap. So how our policymakers can help to fill the gap? So we need deep thinking in this. So otherwise, some years later, those robot companies might lose business, right? Very likely. And okay, there we are thinking about, as scientists, we are thinking about, so how we think currently we lack a fundamental systems approach. So this approach is necessary because this approach could help all stakeholders to understand the benefits and the potential consequences and the uncertainties. So then we think, okay, there are 5 components: data, model, service, technology, and governance. So these sort of, so food, energy, water can integrate these 5 components together. So let me explain to you what is the distributed data network. This means, so I'm not a data scientist. I think Dr. Penchoff can tell you more. So how data are available in Argentina, US, China, India. So if we can get data connected, even between small and large farms, we probably can develop much better solutions. We can predict the problems. We can tell farmers, okay, if you use this robot, if you use this sensor, okay, you paid, already you pay for those sensors or robot, but they probably cannot bring any benefit to you in 3 years. For example, in Tennessee, in West Tennessee, we have almost more than 40 years no-tillage field site. So no-tillage was the first time proposed to the world by University of Tennessee. But we based on soil carbon data, we found so no-tillage cannot increase soil carbon concentration. So we need to wait for 10 years. 10 years we can see no-tillage can increase soil carbon content. But scientists can wait, but farmers cannot wait. That's the problem. Do we have any technology solutions to help farmers to see the increase of soil carbon in 3 years or 5 years? So this is a question. When we talk about the regenerative agriculture, so our question is, if soil is not regenerative, how we can make agriculture regenerative? It's just a concept, but practically probably not work. So you can argue against me, but this is my current probably immature perspectives. And so what is dynamic system modeling? I'm also not a modeler, but I collaborate with many modelers. So I think it's modeling, database modeling can help us predict any benefits and the risks. So, but I think it's one key point with dynamic system modeling is that how we can take local action to solve regional problems. If we reduce our greenhouse gas emission in Rosario, that is a contribution to the global net zero goal. It's clearly, right? So what is smart governance? Smart governance emphasizes, so currently different ministries have their own policies, their own rules, their own funding to support net zero or low carbon business. But we need those ministries collaborate. So then smart governance should emphasize intersectoral policy development. So then they can create opportunity for citizen government collaboration. So in Argentina, as I know, there are many private companies, people. So, but there's also at a large portion how that private public can collaborate, work together. I know this is probably a very general question, but you already know. But I wanted to say, okay, So there is in the U.S. Some policy researchers are developing these kind of things. So what mechanisms should be used to make the public agencies and private organizations are willing to come together, you know? And the convergent technology is a hard word in the U.S. So that means we need to really integrate water treatment technology, soil remediation technology, crop modeling technology, biofertilizer manufacturing technology, and the solar energy technology, everything together. So converge it into a single system to help our farmers to solve the problem at one time. So that is, I know there's a long way to go, but we sort of know this. We sort of always advocate these kind of directions. And the decentralized service. A good example is that, so for example, in the U.S., soybean and corn are mainly produced from 3 states, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. In that central west region, if there will be extreme weather conditions, soybean and corn production will easily to reduce by 20 or 30%. Then chicken or animals livestock will have no food. So then egg price, meat price will increase. Yeah. So for example, in 2020, so 99% of lettuce, a vegetable, was produced in California and shipped to all other areas in the U.S. But the problem is, why Tennessee farmers don't produce lettuce? Why people in Tennessee need to import lettuce from California? The transportation emits a lot of greenhouse gas. So this lettuce products in California or corn and maize production in Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois are centralized production system. Centralized system is weak. It's not resilient to climate change impact. We need distributed production system worldwide. So we call that is decentralized service. But what kind of system can become decentralized? So such as environment controlled environment agriculture is a decentralized system. Those greenhouses could be built and installed in anywhere, right, dry or wet, cold or warm areas. So then I would like to talk about how we can translate science into our action. So in general, the food, energy, water nexus have more and more overlap. So only in these 3 component overlap the central part, we can have win-win-win outcome. Otherwise the trade-off might be too big. So it's difficult for us to achieve the net zero goal. So I would say, I think some other speakers already mentioned this. While we talk about food, energy, water for net zero goal, we really need to look beyond. For example, how we can make policymakers, researchers, and stakeholders work together, because each stakeholder, apply different approach or contribute different resources to make the food, energy, water system work. This is important. And I think this is, but today, it's hard to take actions. But we always tell policymakers, so we want to have to communicate with them. But again, even in Tennessee, we try to invite those government leaders, but they say, oh, I'm busy, next time. So they don't have time to talk to researchers. So they know we have some good ideas or suggestions, but they don't have time. That's the problem. I think it's similar problem exists in Argentina. But we do need to think about how to make the policymakers, stakeholders, researchers work together, develop tangible solutions. So stakeholder engagement is easy to say than to do. So this, you probably know, this solar farming, livestock, and the greenhouse gas wastewater recycling, urban agriculture looks great, beautiful. But these are not enough because these even solar farming not sustainable, urban agriculture not sustainable. That's the problem. This greenhouse wastewater treatment is at a low level, cannot solve the key issues. So we need some platform. How we can develop stakeholder serving platform. But technology serving platform. I think operating state can play a key role in this to provide serving to all of small and big farms. But before we develop platform, we need to really have more, sharing of knowledge, experience, opinions. So, and the policy development, sort of exercise intersectoral policy development. So also from research side, university professors should really make their research more related to policy, new policy, and also open research to the public community. So always think about, now instead of think about research article publication, but think about how the research is useful to our society in a short term. So I know this is this is thinking beyond the immediate personal benefits to achieve long-term societal solution. All people know this, but still, it's easy for people to forget this point. So all people agree this, but they forget. They don't take actions. So I just want to emphasize this again. So this is the new center. We just got a grant from U.S. National Science Foundation to build a global center called Climate Smart Food Energy Water Nexus in farms. So we want to build this kind of new farm system. So solar farming, this is not just a solar panel. These are weather intelligent solar panels. So we also, this animal production, this crop production. So water, energy, resources, biofertilizers are all recycled. So this is just a conceptual design. So all technologies have already existed, if you want. But how to integrate them together, how to make them work, how to make them economically sustainable, we need to work with farmers. We need to have small pilot model to test how we can make farmers richer, how we can help them while we reduce carbon emission, we make farmers earn more money. So, but this is not advanced technology, but nobody has integrated them yet, but probably some people integrate partly, not all of them. And so also in my college of the University of Tennessee, we are developing a new initiative called Circular Bioeconomy Systems. So this is much larger, so mainly emphasizing how agricultural biomass could be reused for different industry products. This is a key. We have chemical engineering, material engineering, chemists, all the people working in this area. We have done a lot of work in nanofibers. So nanofibers is expected to be used for airplane. For example, in airplane, airlines really want to use some nanofibers to manufacture the airplane because current airplane might be too heavy, and the nanofiber is strong, but also light. So, okay, again, so consistent to the above global center or circular bioeconomy initiatives, we are hiring 6 professors for my college. So we focus on climate smart agriculture and forestry. So these are 6 positions, including circular bioeconomy, agriculture, informatics, and decision making for food, energy, water. So I just want to show you what actions all my university is taking, and so as an exchange with you. And we are planning to organize a food, energy, water, bioeconomies for net zero transition international conference in March next year in Knoxville, Tennessee. So hopefully, if some of you are interested in participating in this conference, please write an email to me. And this is the background is the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, 1 hour from our campus. If you come, we can bring you to this great place. Also, I want to mention we have a very large national lab, half hour from us. So Dr. Loeffler is a scientist there, has a shared position there, so he can tell you more. So if you come to us, there are many great things. So, okay, yeah, I'm done. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Joe. Well, next is Frank Loeffler. He's a bachelor degree in biology and a degree in microbiology from the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart. And his work has been cited more than 16,000 times, and he has an index of 67. And Dr. Loeffler is a fellow of the American Academy of Microbiology. Impresionante curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me in the back. If not, please complain. So Dr. Zhuang talked about big things, and I'm going to talk about something very small. In fact, so small you can't even see it with the naked eye. I'm going to talk about soil microbiology. And it's clear that soil is at the heart of agriculture. And all the processes that happen in soil, most of them are controlled by microbes in the soil. If you take a tablespoonful of soil, in that tablespoonful of soil, you have more microbes than you have people on the planet Earth. Okay? So soil is full with microbes, and they do something in the soil. And I'm going to talk a little bit about processes catalyzed and mediated by microbes in the soil that are relevant for agriculture. Okay, so we talk about climate change and greenhouse gas emission and carbon sequestration. So this is an old figure from the IPCC, and you see CO2, methane, nitrous oxide are increasing in the atmosphere. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now about nitrous oxide, N2O, because it's a very strong greenhouse gas. And you see in this little figure here, the dark blue contribution to the nitrous oxide budget in the atmosphere is coming from agriculture. So agricultural activities significantly accelerate and increase N2O emissions into the atmosphere. And that is very problematic because N2O destroys ozone, and it's also a greenhouse gas, and this combined effect makes it a very strong climate-active gas. And so, if you think about the nitrogen cycling and the nitrogen fertilizer, so the Haber-Bosch process, we can now chemically make reactive nitrogen, and then we bring it back to the field. And that activity has led to a major disturbance of the nitrogen cycle. So the nitrogen cycle is the most disturbed elemental cycle on our planet. And taking this a step further, maybe that helps you to understand what impact we have. In industrialized countries like Argentina, every second nitrogen atom in our body is coming from a plant that performs the Haber-Bosch process. Okay, every second nitrogen atom in our body is coming from a chemical plant that makes nitrogen fertilizer. So we fertilize the fields for obvious reasons, and then this fertilizer, ammonium, is a substrate for microbes that live in soil. So for example, nitrification is a microbial process that converts ammonium to nitrate. Okay? So this is okay, the plant can use ammonium, plant can possibly use nitrate, but then it rains, and what happens? You have runoff, because the nitrate is very soluble, it's not retained in soil. The ammonium is positively charged, it attaches to negatively charged soil particles, so it's retained, but the nitrate is lost. So you see, this is not a good process for efficient fertilizer utilization. So then when it rains a lot, you have waterlogged fields. That means the oxygen is consumed and you have anoxic conditions. Under anoxic conditions, there are other groups of microbes. They convert nitrate back to nitrite, back to ammonium. This is called DNRA, dissimilatory nitrate reduction to ammonium, or respiratory ammonification. So this is a very beneficial process, right? Because something that can be lost, it can be washed out, nitrate, is converted back to something that's retained in soil because it is positively charged. Now there's another process in soil mediated by other microbes. It's called denitrification. So the nitrite is converted to N2O or to N2. And these gases are lost to the atmosphere. Right? And I told you N2O is a greenhouse gas, so the loss of N2O is particularly troublesome. But also the fertilizer that you put on the field is lost to the atmosphere. So that's a detrimental process in agriculture. It's obviously a very good process for wastewater treatment. But that's not what we're doing here, right? We're talking about agriculture. So you have two competing processes here. You have DNRA, a beneficial process in soil, and you have denitrification, a detrimental process in soil. So, and then you also generate this greenhouse gas N2O. So now you see, if you would better understand how you can manipulate the microbiology and the processes, you may direct more nitrate or nitrite towards the red arrow, right, beneficial, and not so much along the blue arrow, a detrimental process. And there's still research going on, but I can give you some hints, right? So the carbon to nitrogen ratio determines what process dominates. And so now we can also, with these high-resolution techniques that microbiologists have available, we can take the spoonful of soil, extract all of the DNA in the soil, and learn everything these microbes in this spoonful of soil can possibly do. We can then make some predictions, what the potential is, and maybe also when we sequence RNA or look at proteins, what activities are actually dominating. And then we can link this to the geochemistry of the soil or treatment or what plant is growing, and we can potentially manipulate the system in a way that we see processes in the soil that are beneficial for agriculture. So talking a little bit more about nitrous oxide emissions that are particularly at the bottom, that generate N2O. And that's released to the atmosphere. Now the only process really that exists that can remove N2O is reduction to N2. And this reduction is catalyzed by certain microbes that possess genes encoding an enzyme system called nitrous oxide reductase, NOS-Z. And this was the only known pathway for N2O reduction. So a little bit more than 10 years ago, we and others discovered a new group of enzymes that are related to this existing NOS-Z, but they're different. Okay, and it appears that those organisms are much more abundant in soil and probably much more important for N2O reduction. They have higher growth yields, they have faster rates, and so on. So there's more microbiology, new microbiology involved in this process that's important for greenhouse gas emission mitigation. And this is something we study in the lab, and we pay more attention to this. And I come back at the end of my talk how we can make this relevant for agriculture. So another issue with current agriculture is that it leads to soil acidification. So it's precipitation, it's fertilizer application, the growth of legumes, and so on. The bottom line is, and you probably know more about this than I do, soil acidification is a problem. Now what happens in terms of nitrous oxide, all the processes that generate nitrous oxide, they happen over a relatively broad range of pH. Even acidic pH, you generate a lot of N2O. But the known organisms that reduce N2O, they operate in a very narrow pH range. The point is, when soil gets acidic, you have more N2O emissions because you have less N2O consumption. That's the paradigm right now. And so we were working on this problem for a few years, and we took samples from tropical soil that is pH below pH 5 and from agricultural soil in Tennessee, pH 7. So we set up microcosms to test at pH 4.5, and when we saw N2O reduction, this is shown in these figures on the right, these are over time N2O concentrations, they decline. That's at pH 4.5. So apparently there are microbes in there that can reduce N2O at pH 4.5. And then we did enrichment culture, so we transferred from a microcosm, and this was a very difficult process, and I think that's why we don't know much about these organisms. Many people have failed getting enrichment cultures. We succeeded and eventually got a number of enrichment cultures that reduce N2O at pH 4.5. What we then did, we sequenced all the DNA. We can take these small pieces of DNA and we assemble genomes of organisms that are in this culture or in these cultures. This is what I call a MAG assembly, metagenome assembled genomes. From the genome, we can predict what these organisms can do. We can look for NOS-C genes. And what we find are NOS-C genes that represent a novel clade. They have not been seen before. Okay, and this is what I highlight here in this blue thing. So we find new NOS-C genes, indicating this are new microbes that have not been characterized before, that are responsible for N2O reduction at acidic pH. We find these organisms everywhere in agricultural soil. So the question then becomes, why do we believe acidic soil is emitting more N2O? And can we manipulate these organisms so that they can more actively reduce N2O at low pH? So the bottom line is, understanding the microbiology better may give practitioners opportunities to reduce greenhouse gas emission by possibly doing very modest modifications to their practice, the way they do it, so that the geochemistry of the soil supports organisms like this. So another question, that comes up, or discussion that comes up a lot is, we plant, a crop and cover crop, and the carbon, the CO2 is coming from the atmosphere, photosynthesis, you make organic carbon, and then some of this organic carbon goes into the soil, and soil carbon is increasing. Okay, this makes sense. And there's carbon credit talk and all of these things, but one important question that I have, and many others, is this carbon actually staying in the soil over time? So do we transform carbon from the plant, cover crop, into recalcitrant carbon that is maintained or retained in the soil over decades or centuries? And so the processes that convert labile carbon from a plant into recalcitrant carbon, this is actually a black box. We don't exactly know how this works. Microbes are clearly involved in this process. If you think about this, right, in order to get carbon credits, you have to take measurements and show increase in carbon. Imagine we would know more about this process, and you can go to a soil and you measure biomarkers that have to be identified that represent organisms involved in this process to transform labile carbon to recalcitrant carbon. Then this measurement may become much easier. You analyze for the biomarker and you can predict if this soil is building recalcitrant carbon or is not doing the formation of recalcitrant carbon. Right? So there's a lot of potential how microbiologists can help identify biomarkers that are then that would give practitioners relevant information. So yesterday I attended a meeting at Quilmes University. And it's one of the bigger meetings, several hundred people, and it's called Microbial Ecology Latin America. So there's a big meeting of the Society for Microbial Ecology, and there are many people studying soil processes at a very detailed level, very high resolution. Those people doing this have relatively little interest in practice. But they have a lot of information that's very relevant for agriculture. Here, I see a lot of practitioners. And they are interested in this, but there's very little connection between these different groups of the scientists and the practitioners. I think I'm a little exception. I'm a scientist, but I do have I'm very interested reaching out to practitioners. But there are not so many like me. That may be a good thing. But my point is, there should be a stronger effort connecting fundamental research in microbiology with agricultural practice. I think there's a lot of potential for improvement, especially in this changing environment with carbon credits, CO2 sequestration, greenhouse gas emission mitigation. So this is something that I think all countries, including Argentina, should pursue more rigorously to establish these connections with the benefit for practice. Put science into practice. Okay, so this was the end of my talk. Again, the Smoky Mountains are nice. I have a group of people working on problems like this, and I have support from the National Science Foundation. And again, lots of appreciation for the organizers inviting me, giving me this opportunity, and Enrique Garcia from BioNTech making this happen, that I could be here and speak to you briefly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. A lot of questions from myself. Well, the next is Deborah Penshoff. He is research assistant professor in the Department of Nuclear Engineering. So it's a very tough science. So thank you, Deborah.
Okay. Okay, so first I will explain how I'm from nuclear engineering and I'm here. Really, I am a data scientist with computational science background whose biggest focus in recent years has been nuclear and radiochemistry. But through the environmental component of radiochemistry, I have been working closely with people like Frank and Joe and others at the University of Tennessee. So what I would like to tell you about today is a tiny bit about high-performance computing, how you can use that yourself for things that you may be interested in. It's a superficial overview. We're a bit tight with time, but I will be happy to discuss further. So if there's anything you hear about here that you would like to talk more, I'll be around. I speak Spanish, although not very well, I guess, sometimes. So let's get it started. So I'll give you a quick introduction about these elements and a couple of examples how we use it related to sustainability. So the goal of what I feel like I'm here for is to facilitate collaborations applying this use-inspired artificial intelligence that I will elaborate on in a second to solutions that you need. It might feel foreign sometimes, high-performance computing or supercomputing and artificial intelligence, but I hope I can correlate it enough to what it might mean to you. So what is high-performance computing, or what we call supercomputing? Really, it's just a massive computer, right? You can picture it as a stack of elements that allow for parallel processing techniques, and they're fast. They're high performing. They perform efficiently and quickly. And that empowers a lot of research, medical, chemical, biological, you name it. We just now entered what is called the exascale era of computing over here. That is just how we measure performance in computing. If you're interested, we can talk more. But what I want to say is computing really is fluid. right? Our iPhones today or our cell phones really are a supercomputer of the past. So, now we're super happy at exascale. It's the fastest it's ever been. In a decade, we will be better. So where does this matter? Being at exascale computing today enables analysis of massive sets of data that perhaps in the past we didn't have the computing power to be able to analyze. So we had to cut some corners. Now we have to cut no corners in some areas and some corners in some that remain, because the supercomputers can manage a lot amount of data. And as we enter exascale computing era, the global advances are better, right? Like the way we can also work together and build upon each other's finding and data is even easier. But one thing we have to be careful, although there's a massive opportunity to work together, build data sets, to train algorithms, to use supercomputers to get the answers that we need in a predictive world, we have to build a set thinking that, this is it's not magical. This just does more than we can do on our own, right? Back when we analyzed data in pencil and paper, we had a little table. Well, now that little table might be billions of data points. It's the same reasoning. It's just the computer allows you to perform through that analysis. So how we categorize data, how we classify the data really is ultimately the set that will train the algorithm that then you will use for your data to get answers that otherwise you wouldn't have had. So I can talk about this for hours because, I'm a big nerd about this, but I will talk to you more if you want. I just want to say, keep in mind, the data you have can be very useful for these things. How we build the sets is important. And different applications might need billions of data points for a prediction. Other ones can be done with less. So I hope I can convince you a little bit that you don't necessarily need massive data to be able to use these tools if they perform well for what you need. And the interpretability of the findings require human and algorithmic bias conditions to be controlled. If you train an algorithm with data that is biased, it will give you biased predictions. So for that, we need to curate the data correctly. As you perform experiments or get data from the field directly, it can be cataloged if you can keep in mind how the data were obtained, in which conditions. That's how we can build the sets to train the algorithms. What's important in a field that perhaps is not very advanced in using these tools is to develop standards and best practices. In the nuclear world that I come from, that has been one of the main items to do. How we classify the data and how we use it well. How do we tell each other in our own community how to use it best? So I mentioned very quickly earlier use-inspired AI. Sometimes artificial intelligence sounds like something very foreign that is not directly applicable to your daily life or to your work, to your business, but it really can be. Just to make a quick difference, foundational is what we refer to as creating new AI, creating new technology. Use-inspired is using current algorithms that are tailored to solve the problems at hand. So we have, and Joe and Frank mentioned this a bit, we have a multidimensional challenge on how we address sustainability. How do we develop solutions? And we need all of us here. Just the four of us on the stage have a different background, and we can work together to create solutions that each one on our own cannot achieve. This is just a schematic of what really my group does. We focus on a lot of environmental, national security, and energy components with people that have background from computer science to biology to economics and public policy. They also mentioned the need for informing public policy. So some of the projects that relate to sustainability focus on critical minerals and rare earth elements, environmental remediation, particularly removing anthropogenic contaminants, things that humans have created that are contaminating the environment. Also biochar for carbon sequestration and soil enrichment, and the public policy component. But in interest of time, I will just show a tiny bit of an example for this. So the critical minerals are essential in many, many things we need. Our cell phones, any of our technology that has been reduced in size depends on supermagnets. In defense, in green energy, in medical technology, our satellites, all our computing tech, all of this requires these elements that otherwise we cannot build them with other elements. So if you look at this chart, what you see is the mine production of rare earth elements since the 1990 till a couple of years ago. This is based on the last USGS report. And what you see in dark blue is the production in China, in red, the United States, and in light blue, all the other countries combined. What you see is that at the beginning, most countries have the same production, then China increased a lot, and recently others have restarted. But why did this happen? This happened because to separate these elements, the process is very toxic, and it affects the environment. Unless we can develop processes that are less toxic to the environment. It kind of looks like this. If you want a schematic, pretend you have an aqueous in a liquid phase and a separation process. You want to latch to one thing to remove it from the other. AI can help us do this because we can catalog the steps that this takes. So if you can say, I have this contaminant with this separation agent in an environment that has this type of soil, this type of temperature, a certain pH, a certain ion in solution that will compete, you catalog that, and you can predict some of the components that you couldn't measure otherwise. So if we think in the broader paradigm that also Joe and Frank referred to, AI and HPC can provide insight for your practices, influence the models, inform how we tell our public policy strategies, how we can help our society at the local level, at the national level, at the global level, driven by things that sometimes you can't just measure, but you trained an algorithm well enough that can give you some insight. And global challenges, I put there again, need tailored solutions. We need to be very creative, and our engagement in the multidisciplinary and multi-institutional efforts really can give us some advances. Frank was saying here, he's a bit of an anomaly because he can merge the two fields. That is not minor, right? That is something that can really help us. And with this, I hope I gave you a bit of an overview of where the field is in computing. But something, if you want to take one thing out of this, where do you see yourself in this process, in this synergy, in this world? You're somebody who needs predictive capabilities for something that you don't have enough data for? Are you somebody who has a lot of data and you really want to use it to predict something you don't have? Are you somebody who doesn't quite know where you fit? Talk to us. Because really, the need to collaborate in this is very, very critical. And with this, I want to thank you all for listening to me and my collaborators who work on this tirelessly. So thank you so much. And I don't know.
Thank you, Deborah. Now we are going to have the questions. Now we are going to show the number for the questions. But I have some. Frank, the biomarkers, you say they can predict things. And what about correcting things, like something like an Activia yogurt or something like that? You can correct regenerated soil, for example, with some bacteria, some microorganism?
Okay, so if I understood the question correctly, right? So I said there are a large diversity of microbes in soil, and there's functional redundancy. So it's not just one organism that can denitrify or do DNRA. There are many that can do this. So this is functional redundancy. So some of them, so they're not operating all at the same time. So when it comes to diversity in soil, a lot of that diversity has to do with kinetic diversity. So one population does a process faster, another one does the same process but slower. And they respond to different geochemical conditions. For example, nitrite concentration. If the nitrite concentration is high, one population or few population may respond with certain kinetics. If it's lower, different other populations respond with different kinetics. So the point here is, if you understand the system at higher level with more resolution, you may be able to implement slightly modified procedures that generate slightly different environmental conditions for these microbes that may shift processes in a direction that you believe are more beneficial for agriculture. And so now, if we would know what populations do what under what conditions, you can think about specific biomarkers. This could be genes, very specific for this process you're interested in. It could be a protein encoded by a gene that you can readily measure. The presence of this biomarker gene or protein, the abundance of this gene or this protein can tell you something about the rate of the process. So we are working on this, that we can quantitatively measure a biomarker like a protein in soil. And the abundance we can link to process rate, right? So all this work together can generate predictive understanding. At this point, we are not there, right? We lack, we have some biomarkers, but they only tell us part of the story. We need more. And then we can select the most important ones to answer the questions that is relevant for agricultural production and mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, and so on. So we need to select, identify, and then select these biomarkers, and this could be site-specific. So this is what we are trying to do, and there's a community out there that is working on these questions. But again, it's also important when microbial ecologists develop this understanding that it penetrates the practice, agricultural practice. I think there's a big gap that we need to bridge.
Thank you. Joe, there's a question for you. There is a chance of population reduction. There are some demographics that say so, at least in developed countries. There's a chance for that, for demographic, for the population reduction?
Population
reduction.
So, yeah. Because everybody's talking about net zero, growing population, but some demographics says the contrary, no?
Yeah, sorry, I did not show the map. So population will decrease in developed countries. For example, in China, Japan, even Russia, but will increase a lot in developing countries. In South America, the main population increase will occur in Brazil. And also, African population will increase a lot, for example, Nigeria. And also India will increase a lot, Mexico. So the problem is, I think this is a very good question, because in developed countries do not lack food, energy, water resources. Also much stronger or more resilient to climate change impacts. But in developing countries like African countries, they don't have much water, they lack food, but they don't have technology and good facilities for high resources efficient agricultural production. That's a problem. So then, very likely in India and in many other African countries, FEW problem will be a very, very big problem. So then, though those problems will be spreading to developed countries, that's the problem. So when we talk about population reduction, I think this yes, in developed countries, but not in developing countries. I don't know I answered this question well or not.
Okay. No,
but how
is there a chance of demographic reduction? Yes.
So this could be so from another point of view, we need to think about how we can, what international relationships, what kind of sustainable relationships should be developed between developed countries and the developing countries. For example, U.S.-African relations, China and Argentina relations, something like it. I think this kind of political or diplomatic relationship will influence our economic situation and also determine the greenhouse gas emission or food supply, many things. So for example, what I know is China really rely on food import. But China's food import mainly rely on the U.S. and South Africa. But now, due to China-U.S. Is being separated, so then China is relying on South America for food, soybean or corn, something. I think this kind of policies will influence all aspects of our society. So, yeah.
And Deborah, supercomputing, you can use it to predict things or just to analyze data? Not predicting or just analyzing?
So the computer will process the data. The algorithm is how you tell the computer to interpret the data to give you an answer. That answer can be predictive from anything you saw, let's say from Joe or from Frank, right? There are several variables involved in their processes. You may know some, but you don't know the other. If you have enough experiments prior where you had all the data points, you can train an algorithm to be able to recognize what the missing part in the next one would be. So the entire process will allow you to have predictions.
Okay, and who writes the algorithm?
There are many algorithms. Computer scientists, many people, even in the applied world, will write an algorithm. The algorithm is not your first problem. Your first problem is, or your first challenge is, collecting the data to train the algorithm to learn. Because that data has to be representative, it has to be unbiased, it has to be, in other words, good, like if a human would do it.
Okay, so somebody is in artificial intelligence building that algorithm, or
there are already plenty of algorithms. Okay. So you would start out by building your set. That's the first thing. Then you can try out known available algorithms and see if any of them are useful for what you're trying to predict and accurate. If it happens that none of the available ones are good enough, then you can design your own.
Is this in some point risky?
In which way?
I don't know. In a Terminator way, I don't know.
I think we're far from that, but especially when we say AI, right? Artificial intelligence, in theory, should be sentient. We're not there. So we're kind of using this umbrella term of artificial intelligence to say machine learning, neural networks, which is just, algorithms.
Okay. Thank you. I think there is no further questions, and we also are out of time, so I have to say thank you for you all. Very interesting, and I think there's going to be a lot of work to do ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you very much.
En YPF Agro estamos todo el tiempo acompañándote con las mejores soluciones desde el inicio hasta el final del ciclo productivo. Con la mejor genética de semillas, nutrición especializada, protección de cultivos y soluciones energéticas. YPF Agro aporta tecnología e innovación al manejo diario de tu campo, porque el campo es todo el tiempo. Y todo el tiempo estamos ahí. YPF Agro.
Somos una única Bunge, una empresa de agronegocios presente en más de 40 países. Más de 200 años de historia. Conectamos a los productores agropecuarios con los consumidores de todo el mundo. Desde 1884, produciendo en la Argentina. Bunge.